Okay, good morning, everyone. So, today we will start the basic introduction of the disasters. What are the different types of disaster through different pictures? I will try to give you a brief about these disasters. Okay. So, while we are talking about the disasters, what is disaster? So, disaster is a sudden, calamitous event bringing great damage, loss, and destructions and devastations to both the life of various people who are residing into those areas and the property. Okay, so it is a sudden, maybe a sudden, or maybe sometime it is due to some errors which are done by the human beings who are indulge into different kinds of activities which we are going to study in detail with the coming lectures. Okay, so in brief, what we can say, that disaster is a sudden calamitous event bringing great damage, loss, destruction, devastation for both life and property. Okay, so whenever we are going for any kind of planning, our first aim is to save the life of people who are residing into those disaster prone areas. After that, the property and the other infrastructure at secondary and tertiary levels, but the first aim is to save the life of people who are residing into those areas. Then the damage caused by disaster is immeasurable, and it varies with the geographic locations of areas, climate of a particular areas, and the type of earth surface and the vulnerability. Okay, so in your geography you have gone through the different subjects, the in basic environmental studies, basic climatology. So there you must have studied that if you see the geographic locations of different areas, if you take an example of India, in south we have the coastal areas, in north you have the hilly areas of Himalayas. Okay, in the eastern part you have some humid type of climate, and in the western side we have dry kind of atmosphere, where we have even desert like conditions. So the geographic conditions, whether that area is having plain or hilly or desert like conditions, or whether it is humid, hot, high temperature area. Okay, or how the surface of the earth is, what is the slope, whether they are very slopy areas where if there is a flood like condition, it is very difficult to control the flood because of high slope in those areas. So all these parameters, they play an important role in the measurement of the damage which may occur due to a particular disasters. Okay, you must have seen that in plain areas, if you take an example of UP, Bihar, the plain areas of MP, so there are very rare cases of landsliding. But if you take an example of Himalayas, which are very slopy areas, which are very highly elevated areas. So if you come through and construction of roads, there are lot many cases of landslides, due to which every years during the rainy seasons we have a landslide related disasters, which may cause the loss of various infrastructures, which may cause the loss of different properties, life of people. Okay, if you remember, there was a disaster due to a landslide in Mandi, I think in 2017 or somewhere around that. Okay, so hundreds of people, around two buses, they got into struck up of that landslide. That was so big that those two buses, nothing was found. Hardly one or two people was saved from that disaster. Okay, so the what I mean to say here is that these conditions, the geographic conditions, the climatic conditions, are also an important factors for different disasters to be happened. Okay, if you talk about the tsunamis, they may take place in areas where you have a seashores, right? In places like Himalayas, you don't have disasters which are related to tsunamis. Okay. In the areas of plain areas, I told you ki disasters like landslides, they won't take place. Okay. Heat wave, now if there is a temperature of 10 degree or 15 degree, there will be no case of heat wave. Okay. Only in the areas where the temperature increases or exceeded up to 50 degree or 48 degree, there you may have cases of heat waves. Okay. But in case of high altitude areas, we have a cases of cold waves. Clear? So all these parameters, they play an immense or important role in the different disaster to be happened, and they also decides the various intensities of those disasters. Okay. If you talk about the floodings, UP, Bihar, MP, and Bengal, Assam. These are the areas, and yes, in Uttarakhand also. So wherever there are bigger rivers or river bodies, there we have the cases of floodings. But nowadays, you must have heard about the urban floodings, where places like Delhi, Mumbai, they are getting the floods which are inside the city areas. So what is the causes of those urban floods? Because the construction is so high into those metropolitan areas, that the natural drainage, what is needed for a rainwater to drain out from that particular city, that water is not getting, because of the concrete structure which is there everywhere in the city. Okay. So because the water which the city is getting through the rainfalls, that is not getting a proper way to exit. Okay. So that's why that may leads to sometime urban flooding into the different cities, especially Delhi, Mumbai. Every year, they are facing the problems of those urban flooding. So the damage caused by the disasters is immeasurable, and the intensity also varies from different conditions like geographic location of a particular area, climate, and the earth surface and the slope, etc. Clear? Then we have the influences of the mental, socio-economic, political, and cultural state of the affected areas. Okay, so these are the also conditions. What kind of conditions that area is having. Okay. So you must have seen that if a country is economically sound, then they may have equipments, they may have different instruments for the controlling of these kind of situations. You have seen that in case of forest fires in the Amazon Valley or in Australia, very rare casualties are found in terms of the loss of life of people. Okay. Why? Because of the this good socio-economic and political status of that countries. They all are developed countries. Okay. But the same thing, the same fires, if it take place in a country which is developing or underdeveloping, the loss or the intensity is quite high. So the socio-economic, the political conditions also play an important role for any kind of disaster and its influence in a particular area. Okay, so you have seen that there is a lot of loss in terms of the destruction in the wildlife into those areas, if you talk about Amazon or this thing. So it is because of that, that they are the densest forests in the, complete world, and it is very hard to reach into those forested areas. So that's why they could not reach into those areas as far as the, inner areas of the forested areas are concerned. But otherwise they have tried to save maximum, infrastructure and the other things, because economically they were sound. Okay. Then in case of pandemic also, you have seen that the maximum loss took place in the either the metropolitan cities, or in the highly populated areas, along with the areas where the medical facilities were less. You have seen during corona time, in many states, in many rural areas, due to the lack of medical facilities, many people died who could have maybe saved. But our medical forces, our this different administrative bodies, they try to do their level best. But due to the people who are not educated, who, like, if you take an example of these vaccinations itself, you must have seen on TV that in many rural areas, people, they are denying for taking those doses of Covishield or Covaxin, because they say ki we will die. Okay, but they are not understanding that they are for their safety. They are the boosters which will enhance their immunity to fight with the different viruses. Okay, so if the socio-economic, the culture, the education qualification of different people is not up to the mark, then also it may leads to the increasing of, because it is very difficult to make them understand that this is very important medically, or otherwise also, for fighting this current situation, that everybody has to be vaccinated. Clear? So then we have these different disasters where you can see this lightning, this other floodings. Okay, the thunderstorming, etc. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of disaster? If you go through the literal meaning of disaster, that is the definition which I have given you. This is the basic definitions. Now, if you go through the literal meaning of disaster, so it is derived from a French word, disastre, which means in Greek a bad Esther or bad star. Okay, clear? So based on these bad star or this bad Esther, the disaster terminology it came from. Okay, so this is a French word and has came out from disaster words, which means a bad star or bad Esther. Okay, the root of the word disaster comes from an astrological theme in which the ancient people used to refer the destruction or deconstruction of a star as a disaster. Okay, so you must have heard that our elders, they have a saying that if there is a destruction or deconstruction of a star, maybe it is a sign of disaster. Okay, so in terms of astrological, the deconstruction or destruction of star as a disaster as a little meaning. The ancient people believed that disasters occur due to the unfavorable positions of the planets or act of God. Okay, हम what we used to say, if something bad happened to us, कि my stars are not good. Okay, my horoscope, as per today's what you call astrological announcements of this year, or maybe for cumulative 5 years, the my star are not good, so maybe I may suffer from different kinds of disasters. So ancient peoples, based on the stars which your horoscope, okay, or your lines of hand are showing, based on that they say that because of these unfavorable positions of your stars or planets or act of god, maybe some place, some people, they may face from any kind of disaster. Clear? So this is the little meaning. If you go through the word or alphabet by alphabet meaning of disaster, then disaster has disaster. Okay, so D stands for destruction, I for incidents, S for sufferings, A for administrative and financial failures. Okay, so if there is some disasters, obviously there will be administrative as well as financial failures. You see everywhere nowadays, the price hiking is a very current issues, as well as you see the bank rates, the interest rates, they are decreasing day by day. So what is that? That is financial failures. Why? Because of the corona pandemic. Okay, so destruction, incident, sufferings, administrative or financial failures, sentiments. Okay, sometimes we feel so low that we are not able to roam around, we are not able to fulfill our different wishes, whether it is my birthday, my anniversary, my child's birthday. Okay, so I have to control my sentiments regarding my daughter's birthday, my birthday, or my husband, my mother, anybody's birthday is there. I have to control my sentiments, and I have to console myself that yes, because of this atmosphere I have to stay back in my home. We can go for the celebrations in maybe next 1 year, or maybe in 6 months, whenever the conditions will be okay. So that's how the sentiment has to be controlled. Then the tragedies, obviously, if there is disaster has many forms, man-made, natural. So if you see accidents, that is tragedy. We used to say ki there is one tragedy that he broke his leg because of an accident. Okay, so tragedy, T for tragedy. Then E for eruption of communicable diseases. Okay, now you have seen a lot of eruption during this pandemic of corona, that this is how communicable it is. We have to cover our face, we have to keep on sanitizing our hands, because it is communicable. Suppose maybe other person, they have sneezed, they has touched a place, then it may communicate to some other person. So eruption of communication communicable. But as it's not like ki, the corona is has such kind of characteristics. Earlier also we have so many diseases which are related to the eruption of communicable diseases. You talk about TB, you talk about the cold and cough, and other many other viral diseases. Then R for research programs and the implementation. Now many disaster related research are coming up, and those, or the even programs, research programs also there for different disasters, VSc disaster management, MSc, PG diplomas. Okay, and how these studies have been implemented at different levels, at community level, at your research level, that has stands by R. Okay, so if you see, every word has a meaning which shows the impact of disaster. Clear? Then the WHO and Red Cross, which are the different organizations of, controlling, or from the medical line, who controls these disasters, have defined disasters in different terminologies. So according to WHO, World Health Organization, they define disaster as any occurrence that causes damage, ecological disruption, loss of human life, deterioration of the health and the health services on a scale sufficient to warrant an extraordinary response from outside and affected community areas. Okay, so WHO, what it says about the definition of disaster, that it is a happening which may cause damage ecologically, means the environment may have many disruptions, loss of human life, and deterioration of health and services. For example, if there is a flood like conditions or a forest fire in a particular area, okay, so it is causing the loss of the forest in that area. It is also polluting the place in terms of the fume which they are, creating. And then if it is along with a settlement, or a uh, houses are there in the forested area, so it may lead to damage to the human life who are residing into those areas. And because of fume, it may also affect the health of the people, of the animals who are there. Okay, on a sufficient to warrant the extraordinary response from outside affected country, community, or the area. Okay, so a particular scale is there on which these communities may be affected in terms of the ecological disruption, in terms of the loss of life, in terms of the health services due to a particular damage. Clear? Then Red Cross also define this disaster as an occurrence such as different disasters. You may name them like hurricane, tornado, storms, floodings, high water, wind driven water, tidal waves, earthquakes, drought, blizzard, pestilence, famine, fire. It may be a industrial fire, it may be a forest fire, explosions. You have seen that there are many cases of explosion in, different crackers companies or the gas filling stations. Then building collapse, it's again a common case nowadays. Then transportation wreck, or the situation that causes human suffering or creates human, that the victim cannot be elevated without assistance. Okay, so according to Red Cross, any occurrence in terms of different incidents, which may be, I told you, these many incidents, and due to which a situation where a particular human being is suffering so much that he cannot be left out without the help of the medical staffs or the hospitals. Okay, that kind of situation if there is, then it is a cause, type of situation of disaster, or it can be called as disaster. Clear? So these are some disasters. You can see this is the industrial disaster. This is, I guess, forest fire disaster. Okay. This is again some explosion took place. This is the cracks or sliding of the lands. Okay, there are cracks and the road is sliding, so it is something like landsliding. Clear? So these are few photographs where a glimpse of few disaster has been shown. Now, what are the causes of disaster? As in the definition part itself, I told you that the disaster, on the basis of its origin or causes, it can be categorized into two major classes. Okay, one is the natural disaster and the other one is the man-made disaster. Okay, natural means we cannot help it to be happen. What we can do, we can go for the preventive measures so that it can be reduced in terms of its losses which may take place due to the happening of a particular flood. We are able to interpret that due to some meteorological calculations, we can have an idea that from 9, 10, 11, there will be a heavy rainfalls. So if there is a chance of heavy rainfall, maybe the river banks, it exceeded in the water levels, and in the areas which are there along their banks, it may causes some kind of disaster, which is, so what we can aware the people who are residing onto those banks that you please vacate these places, as there is a chances of heavy rainfall during 9, 10, 11 of July. Okay, so first is the natural disaster, in which you may have hydrometeorological disasters, which may be flooding or some other kind of things, geographical disasters, and biological disasters. These are the different types under natural disasters. Then the man-made disaster, where we have the technological disasters and environmental degradation related disasters. Okay, where due to fulfilling our needs, we are degrading the different resources. Okay, that may be the establishment of industrial areas into the forested areas or in agriculture areas, or degradation of the forest, okay, by cutting them or by doing some other kind of activities into those areas. So these are some natural disasters like forest fires or wildfires, earthquakes, droughts, and floodings. And then these are some common natural disasters where you have earthquake, volcanoes, tsunamis, landslides, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, dust storms, floods, droughts, wildfires, and sinkholes. So these are some common disasters, okay, which are due to the natural causes. Okay, again, these are few pictures which are depicting these things. Now, the second class on which we can, categorize these disaster is based on the sudden onset and the slow onset. Sudden means suddenly we are not expecting an earthquake, and suddenly we felt a tremor of maybe 6 or 7 intensity at reactor scale. Okay, so that is sudden disaster. Suddenly some snow avalanche is there, then it is a sudden kind of incident. Slow onset, like the famine. Okay, if there is a continuous degradation in the water level in a particular area, where we can have different agriculture areas, so obviously due to the loss of the water in particular area, we can have a disaster like decreasing the production of those agriculture products day by day. And one day will come, maybe in a year or in a 2 years, that the production from a particular agriculture area will be zero. And in that case, that area is having what you call drought in that particular year. If this drought go for 3 4 5 years, then it can be called as a desert like area. And then if this desertic conditions prolong for 10 years suppose, then it can be called as famine. So this is a slow kind of inset. This famine or this drought will not take place in a single day. Okay, so it is a kind of slow inset. The forest degradation, until unless you are setting up a company or you are converting that forested area into some other land use or land cover, you cannot have that degradation took place. So from high to moderately dense forest, if it is converting due to pest infection, due to the encroachment into the forest areas, that is again a slow kind of onset of different disaster. So on the basis of speed of onset, we have two types of disaster. One is sudden, one is slow onset. Clear? Then we can list out the important disasters as earthquakes, floods, tornadoes, cyclones, hurricanes, tsunamis, fires, nuclear leaks, chemical leaks, terrorist activities, and structural damages. Okay, so these are the list of some disasters. Clear? Then you can see in this image the earthquake which took place in Gujarat in 2001. Okay, so here in the intensity was 7.9, which is very high, and around 20,800 people were died in this disaster of earthquake. Clear? This is volcano. Now, a detailed study of all these, important disasters in terms of geology, in terms of environment, in terms of water-related disasters, we will be studying in the coming classes. But today we are only going through the basics of disaster, its introduction, and what are the different criterias on which we can classify these disasters. So you have gone through the natural and man-made disasters. You have gone through the basis of disasters on onset basis, where we have studied the rapid and slow disasters. Okay, so this is hurricane, this is cyclone, this is typhoon. So these are three different disasters which are again related to some meteorological conditions of the area. This is fire, this is nuclear leak, and due to nuclear leak there may be some explosion took place. This is tsunami, okay, which is in the coastal areas. We have seen a tsunami where okay, then this is a terrorist activity which took place in Mumbai. Structural damage, okay. Then level of disaster. Till here I am clear. So we have different levels of disaster, which I think I will be taking up in tomorrow's class. So today I will be concluding my talk by the introduction itself. What is disaster? I hope I'm very clear in what is the disaster as far as its introduction and definition is clear. I have told you the types of disaster also. Okay, the causes of disasters also I have told you. Then I have given you the major types or major important disasters which took place. Okay, so all these disasters we are going to study in your coming classes, and tomorrow's class we will be going through the different levels of disaster. Okay, so with this, I think I will be concluding my today's talk, and now you can ask me your queries.